You remember that feeling, don't you? The way the air in your bedroom seemed to get thicker after 10 p.m. The way the floorboards groaned under a weight that didn't belong to your parents or the dog. You're 6 years old and you're paralyzed. You pull the duvet up to your chin because, in your head, that thin sheet of cotton is a Kevlar vest. It's the only thing keeping it from grabbing your ankles. We've all been there. Every culture, every continent, every era of human history. We call them the things in the walls, the boogeyman, the shadows with teeth. We've spent 10,000 years trying to turn on the lights, thinking the darkness was the enemy. But what if we were wrong? What if the thing under your bed wasn't waiting for you to fall asleep so it could hurt you? What if it was huddled there, shivering just like you, because it knew what was coming from the sky? What if the monster wasn't the hunter? What if it was the camouflage? Think about the sheer oddity of it. Evolution is supposed to make us more efficient, more confident. Yet despite being the apex predator of this planet, we have a baked-in, primal fear of the dark that we never quite outgrow. We tell ourselves it's a leftover instinct from the days of leopards and wolves. But wolves don't wait for you to look under a bed. Wolves don't vanish when you flip a light switch. There is a universal mythos, a monster blueprint, etched into our DNA. And here is the secret we're going to spend tonight unearthing. The monsters didn't come from our imagination. They were a gift, a survival manual written in the language of nightmares, because there are things in the deep vacuum of space that make a shadow with claws look like a guardian angel. And very soon, you're going to see exactly what they were hiding us from. Let's talk about Leo. Leo wasn't a special kid, not at first. He lived in a house with a drafty attic and a basement that smelled like wet copper. Like most of us, Leo's childhood was a series of negotiations with the dark. "Don't look out the window, Leo," the voice would whisper. Not a loud voice, not a movie demon growl. It was a vibration in the back of his skull. It felt like cold water running down his spine. Leo was 7 when he first saw the visitor. It wasn't a tall, slender man or a hairy beast. It was an absence, a patch of the room where the light simply refused to go. It sat in the corner of his ceiling, a smudge of void that moved like oil on water. His parents told him he had an overactive imagination. They gave him a nightlight, a little plastic star that glowed a soft, reassuring yellow. The visitor hated that star. The first night Leo plugged it in, the shadow didn't retreat. It lunged. It didn't hurt Leo, but it smothered the light. Leo watched, breathless, as the plastic star cracked and dimmed under a weight that shouldn't have been physical. The message was clear. Stay in the dark. Stay hidden. If I can see you, they can see you. At the time, Leo thought he was being haunted. He didn't realize he was being trained. As Leo grew up, the visitor stayed. It became a silent partner in his life. It taught him the rules. Rule number 1, silence is a shield. The visitor would press a cold, non-existent finger to Leo's lips whenever he tried to scream. It taught him to breathe shallow, to move without clicking his heels, to exist in the world without leaving a footprint. Rule number 2, the sky is a searchlight. This was the weirdest part. Most kids want to look at the stars. Most kids want to be astronauts. But whenever Leo looked up at the night sky, the visitor would manifest as a crushing migraine. It would force his head down. It would draw the curtains. It kept him focused on the dirt, the basement, the windowless rooms. We call this agoraphobia or anxiety in our modern textbooks. We medicate it. We tell people to look up and see the beauty of the universe. But the visitor knew something our scientists are only just beginning to whisper about. Our planet is sitting in the middle of a cosmic shooting gallery. We think of space as this peaceful, silent cathedral. It's not. It's a chaotic, radioactive slaughterhouse. Right now, as you sit there are bursts of energy traveling across the light years that could strip the atmosphere off this planet in a heartbeat. We've survived for millions of years. Do you really think that's just luck? Statistically, it's impossible. Every few thousand years, a nearby star should have gone supernova and fried us. A gamma-ray burst, GRB, should have sterilized the Earth's surface a dozen times over. A gamma-ray burst is the most powerful explosion in the universe. If a star collapses into a black hole within a few thousand light years of us, it releases a beam of energy so intense that it makes a nuclear bomb look like a flickering match. If that beam hits Earth, it doesn't just kill us, it deletes the chemistry of life. And yet we're still here. Leo's visitor wasn't scaring him for fun. It was keeping him in the one place where the cosmic sensors couldn't find him. It was keeping him under the bed because, in the grand, terrifying scale of the galaxy, under the bed is the only place the hunters don't look. By the time Leo turned 25, he was a man who lived in shadows. He worked in a windowless server room. He lived in a garden-level apartment. He was the perfect student of the dark. He thought he was safe. He thought the monster had finally won, turning him into a shut-in who was afraid of his own shadow. But then, the sirens started. Not the police sirens. The high-pitched global emergency broadcast hum that vibrates through your teeth. The astronomers had found something that had been traveling toward us at the speed of light for 5,000 years. A wave of high-energy particles, a cosmic wind that shouldn't exist. And as the world panicked, as people ran out into the streets to look at the sky, to see the beautiful, shimmering lights of the coming end, Leo felt a cold, familiar hand on his shoulder. The visitor wasn't hiding in the corner anymore. It was standing right in front of him. And for the first time in 20 years, it didn't look like a monster. It looked like a life raft. "It's here," the voice whispered in Leo's mind. "Now we go deeper. Do you want to know what happened when the lights finally hit the atmosphere? Do you want to know why the monsters are the only reason our species has a pulse? Because the stars aren't just balls of gas, my friend. They're eyes. And they've been looking for us for a very, very long time. By the time Leo turned 16, he started to hate the dark. That's the tragedy of growing up, isn't it? We trade our instincts for logic. We decide that being afraid is a weakness, a childhood skin we need to shed. Leo wanted to be normal. He wanted to go to the bonfire parties at the lake. He wanted to sit on the hood of a car with a girl and point out Orion's belt. He wanted to look up, but every time he tried to open his bedroom window at night, the air would turn freezing. The monster, that shifting, oily patch of void, would wrap itself around his wrists like handcuffs. It wasn't a gentle nudge anymore. It was desperate. You've felt that, right? That sudden, irrational jolt of wrongness when you walk into a dark room? We call it a panic attack. We call it an overactive amygdala. But for Leo, it was a physical barrier. The visitor was screaming in a language of pure sensation. "Stay down. Stay hidden. The light is a hook, and you are the bait." It happened on a Tuesday in October. A rare celestial event, a great comet, was passing through the inner solar system. Everyone was talking about it. The news anchors called it a once-in-a-lifetime spectacle. Leo had saved up 6 months of lawn mowing money to buy a refractor telescope. It was a beautiful, slender thing of brass and glass. He felt like a rebel. He felt like he was finally standing up to the bully in his closet. That night, he waited until his parents were asleep. He dragged the telescope to the attic window. He could feel the visitor pacing. The floorboards didn't just creak, they groaned under the pressure of something heavy and frantic. The shadows in the room were stretching, thinning, reaching for him like smoke. Leo ignored it. He aimed the lens at the sky. He found the comet, a smudge of brilliant, icy white against the velvet black. And then, the monster stopped pacing. It went dead silent. In that silence, Leo heard it, not with his ears, but with his marrow. A sound like a high-tension wire snapping, a cosmic ping. The monster didn't just whisper this time, it erupted. The telescope was ripped from Leo's hands by a force that felt like a localized hurricane. The brass tube didn't just fall, it was crumpled like a soda can. The glass lens shattered into 1,000 diamonds. The monster slammed Leo against the floor, pinning him face down, covering his body with its own cold, suffocating weight. Leo fought. He kicked. He screamed that he hated it. He called it a demon. He didn't see what was happening outside the window. While Leo was pinned to the floor, the sky wasn't just pretty. A massive solar flare, a coronal mass ejection, had just slammed into the Earth's magnetic field. To the naked eye, it was just a particularly vivid aurora. But to the biology of a living thing, it was a hail of invisible bullets. The monster wasn't attacking Leo. It was acting as a lead shield. You see, our atmosphere protects us from a lot, but not everything. There are bursts of hard X-rays and high-energy neutrons that can slice through a wooden roof like it's tissue paper. Scientists talk about the seeding of life, but they rarely talk about the pruning. The universe is constantly trying to reset the clock. We are lucky, absurdly lucky, that we haven't been wiped out. Except maybe luck has nothing to do with it. That night, the monster wasn't just hiding Leo. It was absorbing the radiation that would have mutated his cells, that would have sparked a leukemia that would have taken him by 20. It took the hit so Leo wouldn't have to. When the sun finally rose, the visitor was translucent. It looked exhausted. It retreated into the crawl space, moving with a limp that Leo could feel in his own joints. Leo sat among the wreckage of his telescope and cried. He thought the monster was jealous of the stars. He thought it wanted him to be lonely. He didn't realize that the monster was the only thing in the universe that actually gave a damn if he lived or died. As Leo entered his 20s, he began to notice the patterns. The monster wasn't just reacting to the sun, it was listening to something much further away. Have you ever heard of the wow signal? In 1977, a radio telescope picked up a strong, narrowband signal from the constellation Sagittarius. It lasted 72 seconds. It has never been explained. Leo started keeping a journal. He realized that every time the visitor became agitated, every time it forced him into the basement or blocked his view of the horizon, there was a corresponding spike in deep space radio interference. The monster wasn't just a shield, it was an early warning system. And here is the part that should make your skin crawl. The signals weren't random, they were rhythmic. They were getting closer. The visitor wasn't just hiding Leo from space weather, it was hiding him from a search party. Think about the Fermi Paradox. If the universe is so big, where is everybody? Why is it so silent? Maybe it's silent because the smart ones, the ones who want to survive, have monsters under their beds telling them to shut up. Maybe the great silence of the universe isn't a lack of life. It's a species-wide game of hide and seek. And something out there just shouted, "Found you." The monster in Leo's house started to change. It stopped hiding in the shadows and started staying by the door. It wasn't looking at Leo anymore. It was looking out. It was vibrating. A low, constant thrum that Leo could feel in the soles of his feet. It felt like a dog baring its teeth at a stranger through a fence. Leo realized then that the monster wasn't a separate entity. It was a piece of something much larger, a global network of shadows, a planetary immune system that we had mistaken for ghosts. "They're coming, aren't they?" Leo asked one night, sitting on the floor of his windowless kitchen. The shadow didn't answer in words. It simply wrapped a cold tendril around his hand and squeezed. It wasn't a threat. It was a goodbye. The secret is this. The monster was never meant to stay forever. It was a nursery guard. It was there to keep us quiet until we were strong enough to fight back. But as Leo looked at the cracks forming in the ceiling, not from age but from the pressure of something descending from the upper atmosphere, he realized we weren't ready. Not even close. The sky didn't turn black when they arrived. It turned a screaming, iridescent violet. On that final night, Leo didn't need a telescope. He didn't need to look up at all. He could feel the atmosphere groaning, compressed by the weight of something that defied the laws of buoyancy. The search party had found the coordinates. The signal that had been traveling for 5,000 years had finally shook hands with our orbit. Across the globe, the shadows came out. They weren't hiding under beds anymore. They were standing on rooftops. They were lining the shores of the oceans. Millions of patches of absence, billions of dark guardians standing shoulder to shoulder. For the first time in human history, the monsters weren't the things we were afraid of. They were the only things that looked like home. Leo stood in his small, dark kitchen as the walls began to vibrate with a frequency that shattered glass. The visitor, his visitor, was no longer a smudge on the ceiling. It had expanded. It stood 7 feet tall now, a pillar of smoke in solidified midnight. And for the first time it let Leo see its face. It wasn't a face of teeth or eyes. It was a map. Within the depths of the shadow, Leo saw the swirling gas of the Milky Way, the birth of stars and the death of suns. It wasn't a monster, it was a memory, a living archive of a species that had died a billion years ago. tasked with one final mission. Don't let it happen to them. Outside, the violet sky split open. What came through wasn't a ship. It was a harvester, a massive geometric structure of light and hunger that fed on the bioelectrical signatures of sentient life. It was the reason the universe was so quiet. It was the great filter, moving from planet to planet, snuffing out the candles of civilization before they could become a forest fire. The harvester began to pulse. A wave of reaping energy, a concentrated blast of ionizing radiation designed to scramble human neural pathways, swept across the continent. Leo felt the heat coming. He felt his heart skip a beat as his nervous system began to fray. He looked at the visitor. "Is this it?" Leo whispered. The monster didn't speak. It stepped forward. It wrapped its cold, smoke-like arms around Leo in a final crushing embrace. It wasn't a cage. It was a shield. Through the touch, Leo felt the visitor's entire history. He felt the coldness of the void, the loneliness of watching humanity for millennia, and the deep parental love of a guardian that knows it's about to break. You were never the prey, the feeling flooded Leo's mind. You were the seed, and seeds need the dark to grow. Leo watched through the translucent body of his protector as the world outside turned into a furnace of violet light. He saw the other shadows across the city rising up, throwing themselves into the beam, absorbing the energy, dissipating into nothingness as they took the hit for the families sleeping beneath them. One by one, the guardians were burning out. They were sponges, soaking up the apocalypse until they saturated and vanished. Leo's visitor began to flicker. The deep black was turning gray. The void was being filled with the light it had spent an eternity avoiding. "Don't go," Leo sobbed, reaching into the smoke, trying to hold on to the thing that had terrified him his whole life. "I'm not ready. We aren't ready." The visitor leaned down, its head touching Leo's forehead. The coldness was gone, replaced by a warmth that felt like a summer afternoon. "Look up, Leo," the voice echoed one last time. "The sky is safe now. They won't come back for another 10,000 years. Grow, run, reach for the light. We have bought you the time." With a final silent pop, the visitor evaporated. The kitchen was suddenly flooded with the mundane orange glow of a street lamp. The violet was gone. The harvester, satisfied that it had cleansed the planet because it couldn't see any life through the blanket of shadows, had moved on into the deep. The monsters were gone, all of them. Leo walked outside into the cool night air. For the first time in 30 years, his head didn't ache. The wrongness was gone. The world was silent, but it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of a house after the parents have left, leaving the children to figure out how to live. He looked up. The stars were there. They were beautiful. They were terrifying, but they were no longer a threat. He realized then that every nightmare we ever had, every ghost in the hallway, every demon in the closet, they were just the armor we didn't know we were wearing. We spent our lives trying to turn on the light, never realizing that the darkness was the only thing keeping us cool enough to survive the sun. So tonight, when you go to bed and you feel that familiar chill, when you see a shadow move in the corner of your eye and your heart starts to race, don't be afraid. Don't try to shine a light on it. Don't try to drive it away. Just close your eyes and say thank you. Because somewhere, out there in the freezing vacuum of the stars, there are things that would love to find you. Things that see your heartbeat like a beacon in the night. And the only reason they haven't found you yet is because the thing under your bed is still holding its breath. It's still watching. It's still making sure you stay hidden in the beautiful, protective safety of the dark. Sweet dreams, and remember, you're never really alone in the dark. And thank God for that.